Ladies and gentlemen, this entire video is dedicated to one man, and his name is Viswanathan Anand, and he is one of the greatest chess players ever. To many people, the greatest chess player of all time, and in this video, we're really going to show you why. Yes, he was the multiple-time world champion. Yes, he was basically the pioneer of modern-day chess in India and continues to be a mentor and role model for many. He is currently participating in a Rapid and Blitz tournament called Superbet, where obviously there's many other very strong players. And the first 3 days of action in this event, they all play Rapid against each other. Then they play 2 days of Blitz. And Vishy, despite being 52 years of age and not having played a serious tournament in like over half a year, and the last one he played, he didn't do so well. He did things to these folks who are 15 to 25 years younger than him that I can't even imagine. Let's get a few things out of the way first. No, he's not better than Stockfish. Even though, you know, his performance rating was 3,500. Stockfish is roughly about 3,600. I understand that. But he might as well be. His first game is against Radoslav Wojtaszek, Polish number 1. Polish number 2, sorry. Duda is Polish number 1. And we have Ruy Lopez. We have a6, bishop a4, knight f6, and a main line. d3, b5, all of this has been seen many times. Vishy chooses the approach with a3, knight c3. Obviously, the point of putting the knight and bishop like this is the control of the center square. d5, oftentimes white will play the move bishop to g5 as well, and then trade this off, but white doesn't have to do that. White could do that, but doesn't have to. The other approaches, of course, in the Ruy being mostly based around c3 and d4, as well as various a4 approaches. Vishy chooses a3, knight c3, just regular development. And keep in mind, this is obviously rapid chess, so you don't necessarily have to play cutting-edge theory. And now we begin the queenside jostling. So Vishy plays this b4 move, which is intending to kick the knight back, and obviously if cb, ab, open up the rook. Bishop takes d5, e takes d5, knight back to b7, and Wojtaszek plays f5 with the very clear intentions of playing f4. So he would really like to accomplish some sort of attack on this side of the board, but behind his seemingly dangerous position lie some serious weaknesses. And Vishy immediately begins chopping away. We have d takes c5, and he just grabs a pawn, queen d5, bishop f4, and he kicks the queen out of the middle. Now, black is a couple of moves away from getting a very nice position. This knight is not yet in the game. This pawn, again, creating some weaknesses here. The bishop and the rook need a few moves to get activated. So first, we play c4. Black plays queen d4, counterattacking our bishop, so we throw in this move. We give away the bishop because we are more interested in taking and creating an initiative, right? So check, king h8, and now Vishy plays this nice idea of rook a2. Rook a2 is intending to double up and then threaten that rook with the threat knight g6. So when that rook does in fact arrive, now in this case that's no longer a threat, but should that knight move, knight g6 check will be devastating. Wojtaszek plays queen g5. That's not actually an attack on the knight because we already overprotected it, and now we go rook e6. We are also not exactly threatening to win the knight, but because again our knight is hanging, but we have b takes c4. And here, a savage idea from Vishy. g3. Completely allowing the second... Look at this. He doesn't even take back. He allows Wojtaszek to take so he could hit him with f4. And now the queen can no longer hit the knight, which means we can take here. And that's exactly what happens. Now, Wojtaszek does have two very strong pawns. But Vishy is cool, calm, and collected, navigating the tactics of the middle game, finding a way to make sure that his rook is protected to save his knight. And whether or not black trades one rook or no rooks, Vishy is just able to simplify, consolidate, and everything is falling. The two pawns are done, and Vishy makes quick work of a 27-30 elo player. Basically just a couple of critical moments in the middle game, like b4 and c4, which was an important move to kind of seize control of the initiative. This idea to give away a bishop to get a bishop, stacking the rooks together, and an amazing little pawn sacrifice to kind of signal the beginning of the end. Although Stockfish was saying it was actually close to balanced if black defended very well. But okay, that's one game. What if there are more? In the second round, Vishy has the black pieces, and we're actually going to look at it from his perspective. It's going to be one of those videos, versus Wesley So, who invites a Nimso India. Now, when you play the Nimso, you're going for a forced variation, right? So Wesley plays this very trendy idea nowadays to take on d5 very quickly, not to develop and not to let black take. But Vishy's like, I know what I'm doing, all right? I've seen you play this before, and this is going to be my approach. Very solid. And it really comes down to whether or not Wesley's going to go this way or this way. And Wesley makes his intentions very clear with the move f3. If it's not clear to you, the intentions are to play the move g4, h4, h5. Now, Vishy must have done his homework because he was completely unafraid whatsoever. I mean, he rotates the knight back to f8. You know what they say, knight on f8, never mate. Also, knight on f6, never mate. I mean, that's a very well-protected square. Here we go. The sides have castled opposite ways, which means b5, e4, b4. Now we're going to be chopping away at the queen side. Looks like the bishop really isn't doing a whole lot, but at least the b file is open. a5, a4, a3 is an idea. Bishop a6 in the long run, not right away. Queen a5 in the long run, not right away. e5 looks really nice here. And after knight back to d7, you know, you would love to continue with f4. I don't know why Wesley didn't play f4. Maybe he just wasn't convinced. Maybe he thought this was too slow. Instead, Wesley went this way. And I guess he wanted to trade bishops before going on the attack, like he wanted to consolidate on the c5 square. Yeah, Vishy just plays rook b8, completely giving away the pawn. Like, not even defending it, and inviting the queen to kind of hang out with his pieces. But here he plays an amazing move. Rook e6 to kick the queen out. And then he trades this bishop. You know, the engine here wanted him to just play bishop a6. Understanding this is actually pretty hilarious. If the queen, first of all, if the bishop takes on a6, rook e6 wins it back by force. If the queen takes on a6, the queen is almost trapped. So the queen actually will have to, like, give way for the pieces. It's incredible. But he does it like this. And then here, Vishy plays a move that doesn't make any sense. It's the top Stockfish move. It's a move that doesn't make any sense, because if you look at this position, you're thinking queen c7. You're thinking knight b6 to double up, right? I mean, you're thinking maybe bishop b5, get rid of the knight. You know, one of these moves, rook c6. Vishy here takes the knight. What? Why? I don't understand. To replace the bishop with the rook. And then bring the queen. And you have 19 points of very angry material pointing this way. And white has to be very careful, and Wesley is not very careful. He plays the move e6, sacking a pawn with the intentions to at some point deflect the knight away and get to h7. But Vishy is like, bro, who are you attacking? Try me. All right, I don't care that you're half my age. All right, Vishy is like the 52-year-old guy at the YMCA, all right? And he's balling out, shooting threes, and still posting you up, all right? It's unstoppable. It doesn't matter if you're retired from the NBA. He's a savage. Look at this. He hunts Wesley's king out into the open. And the game ends as Vishy gets on his horse and gallops in. Knight a6, and there is nothing Wesley can do. He has this little battleship of pieces, but he can't stop knight b4. And if you can't stop knight b4, you can't stop anything. Queen e3, queen b2. Vishy, I told you, knight on f8, never mate, right? That's what I told you. So there was never a mate. Vishy plays into Wesley's preparation that Wesley has used and to beat Mamedyarov at the recent tournament. And we just get, Vishy's like, no, let's go. You trying to fight? I don't care. I don't care, Wesley. I've told you, you're nearly half my age. Let's get it on. Boom! Opposite side attack. Vishy takes care of business, no problem. Let's go to round number 3. This time we have a French defense. Do not play a non-Sicilian or a non-E5 against a guy like Vishwanathan Anand. Now, we have a very locked position. In fact, early on, it was nothing traded. And then Vishy took on c5. Now, this move looks like it traps the rook. It doesn't, because there's knight bd2. Not to mention there's also... there's moves like this, which the queen could die. You know, queen gets trapped. So Vishy takes c5. Now, take a look at the structure. All right, white's got a little bit more space. Black can't really go d4. What white would like to accomplish here is to slowly improve and lock down the middle and either expand on this side if successful or clamp the center entirely and go this way. But the point is the center should stay closed. Now, what does Vishy do? Develops, kicks out the queen, and I told you, slowly improving, disallowing this knight from moving forward. Korobov plays knight a5, looking to trade, and Vishy actually does trade and plays the move a4, blocking both of these pieces. And like I just mentioned, he would like to maybe expand on that side of the board as well. In a perfect world, you know, white gets a position that's extremely restricting in nature and doesn't let black move whatsoever. So a4 castles, solidifying the center, queen d2, defending the pawn. And now we have a situation where Vishy got everything. He got the center locked, the queen side is expanding, the king side is expanding. Where are we going? I apologize if the microphone made a noise, I just hit it with my hand. h4. All right, we are going h4. And we are going for checkmate. That is the plan. And I told you there are multiple plans in this position, but Vishy is choosing to just end the game right now. Now, this has a couple of ideas. First of all, g4, g5. Second of all, knight h2, knight g4. And third of all, just general clamping, not allowing the g-pawn really to move. Maybe this will come as well. Rook c7, Korobov doesn't really seem too concerned for some reason. So he throws his knight out, and Vishy's like, yo, do you remember when Gotham said the move bishop d3? I don't know how Vishy sees the future, but he's like, the point of bishop d3 is the second you go there, I'm gonna take. And you say, Levy, you just said not to trade bishops or knights. In the French, when you leave black with the light squared bishop and you get your knight to d4, this is a very well-known concept of good knight, bad bishop. And that bishop's not going anywhere, and that bishop is not scaring nobody, all right? And you'll notice that Vishy is, after clamping the queen side, gonna go over here. This is really how you beat the French. This is how you beat the French as a 2800 level player. Not all of us can be 5-time world champions. In fact, I think in the history of mankind, there have been maybe 5 or 6 of those people. I said world champions, chess world champions, all right? Yeah, and so what does Vishy do? You might be surprised by the next move, considering it just well, you can't really go rook g3 anymore because the queen is going to take the pawns. So instead of that, what does Vishy do? He just plays g3, chills out for a second, g3, every pawn on a dark square. Every piece in white's position is on a dark square. Isn't that fascinating? Look at that. You ever seen something like that? He's got 7 pawns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's got 12 pieces. Every single one is on the dark square. Well, not anymore, sorry. How do you break through here? Very simple. And Korobov decides to fire back. Takes, rook g3. And we have queen to e5. Weak rook, weak pawn. And Korobov just resigns because he realizes that he actually played a move and resigned. Or maybe he lost on time. He realizes that, I mean, the buzzsaw is on its way. And even if Vishy were to lose this rook, you know, f5 check, queen g7, look at this. Can you imagine getting mated like this? So Korobov decides not to even engage. And Vishy, the buzzsaw is, I mean, he's just mowing them down. They keep giving him opponents. And he's like, you sure? Like, you know, like Vishy's just in the zone right now. I mean, it's not even close. I mean, it's just not even close. This guy is 52. Like, I don't think you all realize this, all right? Because I think 90% of my audience is between the age of 13 and 45, according to YouTube, something like that. Now, if you're an older viewer, first of all, please let me know if you're above that age in the comments. I'm always curious, you know, folks telling me their life story in the comments, and I do read the comments a fair bit. You know, like, I'm half of Vishy's age, and I feel tired. I'm half of Vishy's age. Sometimes my mental health is in the gutter. My physical health. My back hurts. I'm 26 going on 45 or 50 physically. I mean, like, you're not supposed to be this good at 52. This game is so brutal to you. And he has played it for 40-something years. And he's just demolishing people. And if you thought this was all impressive, folks, you got no idea what's coming in this next game. You got absolutely no idea. One of the most legendary games, I've been wanting to make a video on it for a while, is Aronian Anand 2013. Some of you know because you've requested that game. Aronian plays bishop c4. His idea is that he'd like to checkmate Vichy in 4 moves. Not actually. He's avoiding the Petrov, perhaps. Knight f3, knight f6. But we have just the normal kind of Italian, nothing special. And believe it or not, as just relatively normal as this position looks, due to the weird move order, it's almost never happened. And the players route their pieces backwards a little bit, you know, and Aronian begins expanding in the center. Now, Vichy hits him with this move. Yes, he just moved the bishop here to trade the bishops, but now that there's tension in the middle, he plays bishop to g4, pinning the knight to the queen, and he's asking what's going on over here. And he's basically waving a red flag in front of a bull because he's 3-0. And to win with black at this level, you really gotta bait your opponent into getting hostile with you, okay? Because if your opponent doesn't want to play aggressively with white, he won't. Aronian is a guy, when an opportunity presents itself, he's gonna take it. And he plays the move g4. g4 kicks out the bishop and very obviously is taking space but weakening the king. So what does Aronian do? He takes. And while he's opening his Anand's bishop a little bit, he's also opening up possibilities for himself. Knight e5, rook e5, inviting the move knight c4 attacking this, but also inviting king g2. I would really like king g2, unpinning, and then I don't really know what the next move here is. Perhaps it's d5, and then after f4, if you go back, you're just losing a bishop. That bishop is just trapped. But if you don't go backwards and you instead go forward, like rook e4, well, then stuff is going to happen. Bishop takes, knight takes, you know, queen h4, queen f2, mate. White will need to defend that, and we play chess. Aronian plays knight c4. He doesn't move his king out of the way, and he attacks the rook and the bishop. Vichy sees that his rook is under attack and doesn't even do anything about it. And this is one of the reasons you actually had to defend f2. You had to unpin, rather, from the f2 square. So now Aronian's like, damn, well, I went there to take this, but Vichy's not going to take with this. He's going to take with a knight. And now it's discovered attack whenever the knight moves, and the queen is hanging. So that's probably what Aronian had kind of like, I don't know, maybe he overlooked, maybe not. But Vichy sacrifices his rook, Aronian doesn't take it. Instead, he takes the bishop, because the bishop is kind of a problem. Now, in this position, if you're playing with black, you play the normal move, queen b6, and you shut up. That's just what you play, because you're threatening that. And then white will probably take your knight, you might trade rooks, and okay, you're up a pawn, but, you know, white will try to trade queens with you. If you're trying to make a draw from a worse position, like where you're down a pawn, opposite colored bishops are your best bet. All right? Opposite colored bishops. Everybody got that? Write that down in your notebook. No, you're not even watching this video in the tab. You just put me on in your living room and you're off doing something else. Shout out to the people who watch me on the living room TV. All right? We got one of those in the current place we're living in. It's pretty dope. Chromecast. I mean, you could watch anything. It's 2022 is awesome. No, actually, it's really not in many ways. But in other ways, it is. Huh. Conundrum. I'm just rambling at this point. I'm kind of tired. My allergies are pretty bad. Instead of that, Vichy plays instant replay. Again, not dealing with the knight attacking anything else. Kabam. No one is escorting that knight to safety. Nobody. King f2 is possible. But then there would be this. And then if king f1, queen h3, if something like king g1, there is bishop c2 deflecting the queen away from the rook. And you die a painful death. Very painful, in fact. Knight takes f2. Oh me, oh my. And this rook can still be taken. Queen d2, now he takes. Why does he take now? Because if you take on f2, I take there. And if you take here, knight takes g4 check. Hi, and I'm going to pick you up in a moment. And when it all clears, Vishwanathan Anand is up 3 pawns. This all happened from a relatively normal-looking middle game. He baits Aronian forward, and Aronian throws a nasty haymaker. Vichy slips it, makes it block, right, with the arm and the shoulder, and just over the top, boom! Oh my goodness, knight f2, and it takes only 24 moves for him to beat Levon. Aronian with the black pieces, 4 for 4. Now, This entire video is mostly dedicated to Vichy. But there's one other man who is chasing him and actually is making a good run to take over the first place spot. And that guy's name is Richard Rapport. I always kind of mispronounce his name, but I think that's kind of how you pronounce it. Now, Vichy, folks, was unstoppable. He was 14 out of 16. He was on +6. 6 wins, 2 draws. Now, Rapport had lost the game. Actually, he had lost 2 games, but he had only made 1 draw. So Rapport has also won a ton of games, and that set up a 9th round clash between the leaders. All right? The leaders of the event. Well, Rapport's maybe 3rd place, but he's trying to be the only man to beat Anand. In this game, we have a 4 knights, and my man Rapport, if I gave you 10 guesses, you would not be able to guess Rapport's move here. Rapport is the master of playing openings that want you to hit yourself in the head with a hammer. All right? He plays A4. You cannot pay me money, possibly, to explain this move to you. I don't understand it. It's a goofy move. In some ways, maybe it prevents bishop b4 because there's knight a2. I don't know, man. Don't ask. I don't know what a4 does, but in the future, if white is able to expand on the queen side, a4 will look like a genius move. Now, probably black should just play like one of the bishop moves. Vichy plays d6, and now we have a Scotch game that, so if you're confused about the Scotch, right? Think about the Scotch: d4, take, knight f6, and then knight c3. And then this is not a good move because bishop b4, but now it's like d6 was played and a4. And now you gotta argue whose move is smarter. Black's move is bad, white's move is relatively idiotic as well. I mean, a4 is kind of an absurd move, right? So now you gotta start debating in this kind of weird Scotch, who played the less useful move? Both guys castle, and then what does Rapport do? He's like, well, I might as well play a5. And Rapport's close to playing a6. I mean, like, if Rapport gets to a6, this whole a-pawn thing looks really smart, because you can't take, because this, and if you take, I take, and if you double your own pawns, I mean, I'm gonna get in, and now there's some weaknesses. It's kind of insane. So knight goes to b4, and Rapport's like f4, and pandemonium is on the board. All right, this is just a wild position. Vichy here finds, you know, he can't play d5 here, obviously. He's got to find something else because Rapport completely controls that with 4 pieces. So Vichy plays d5, which is the best move according to the computer. And the point is that after this, he would have gone c4. And the knight has to block the queen. So when the knight blocks, bishop c5 comes, as well as knight takes d5. It's like, bishop f5. Queen is getting trapped. So d5, e5, now Vichy finds bishop f5, rook f2, Vichy finds d4, and Vichy just has to find the move d3. The final move to get into the position. I don't exactly know what he didn't like about this. I mean, the knight is always coming to c2. I don't know what obviously e takes f6. That's a hanging piece. The knight c2 is apparently playable, and black is better because you're going to win back a lot of pawns here. Instead of that, Vichy plays passively. Rapport grabs a pawn, and now that stupid a-pawn is suddenly a main character. d3 now by Vichy. But now I'm playing c4. You should have done it when you had the chance. All right? Because knight b6, knight a5. I mean, what the hell is Rapport doing? Like, huh? Why are the horses grazing on the side of the board? All of them, by the way. Only Rapport gets things this weird. All right? Knight a4, queen a4, and he just goes back. Now, Rapport is still pawn up. So at some point, Vichy's going to have to win the pawn back, and he does. The problem is that in doing that, the wedge is very strong, and it makes it very difficult for Anand to coordinate. So bishop d5, for example, comes now, and even though he's trying to create counterplay, you sort of see what's about to happen, and it happens real fast. I mean, Rapport is overwhelming here down the middle of the board, but Vichy fights back, gets his center pawns locked, king h1, and now the well-timed f6, allowing e6, but then there would be a blockade. So Rapport opens it up, and Anand sacks the rook. Boom! Because you can't take. If you take, you have no more attack, and I'm actually the one who's trying to play for a win. So we have knight c6, takes, rook slides back. But this allows Rapport to get active with rook a4, rook b5, best move by Vishy. f6, and now Vishy has to find another move of defense. Rook c5, he finds it, queen g4, the pressure is building. You have to play this. If this takes queen, king f8, and somehow you survive, rook d6. There's no checks by white. But Vishy finally succumbs to humanity. He is a human after all. He hits the queen, but the queen arrives right on the doorstep. And after queen to d5, black might be okay, but Vishy plays queen d6. And that loses to a queen sacrifice, takes and discovered check. And the bishop will be taken on f8. And the worst part about this is that at the end of the whole sequence, there's this. If Vishy had not played queen to d6 and instead had played queen to d5, the rook is defended. And Vishy might not even lose this game. Now, he still has to be incredibly accurate. But the final move of the final game of Rapid, Vishy finally goes down. Prior to this game, his performance rating was like 3,400. It was unreal. He's still performing above 3,000. He's back in the top 15 in the world in Rapid, which is on 2700chess.com. Rapport in second place. I had to show this game. I have to give honor to Rapport as well. And yes, there are more players. And yes, we will be covering them in the Blitz recap of the Super Bet. But folks, this man is unbelievable, all right? And it's not, I don't just make videos about Anand to summon the Indian audience. You guys are incredible, all right? I should have shouted you out earlier, you know. This is the second biggest viewing audience of chess YouTube from my channel, besides US. So, and Germany's very close third. I mean, this man is unreal. 52 doing this is unbelievable. I don't want to talk anymore. And anything else I say is only going to take away from his accomplishments. Vishy, you're a beast, a savage tiger from Madras, and I hope that the Blitz is equally fruitful, but you never know, and all you can do is wish the man the best. I'll catch you on the Chessable Masters recap. Hope you've been enjoying the videos. Get out of here.